What we want to talk about today is really get into maneuver warfare and kind of the three big principles, or as William Linds will call it, the three filters. What this means is when you're planning an operation, there are three key filters you run through to be true to maneuver warfare. And what maneuver warfare is all about is trying to get inside the decision making of your enemy. The entire premise is if you can observe what's happening, make sense of it, take action, and then take action quicker than your enemy, you gain an advantage in time. Sure. So you'll hear it as an OODA loop. So if your enemy is observing what's going on, they're making sense of it, they make a decision, and then they take action, and then they again observe what's happened, make sense of it, make a decision, and take action. This takes time to occur, a minute, 2 days, or whatever it is. Sure. To gain an advantage, though, is if you are observing, making sense of it, deciding, and then acting inside of it quicker. What happens is if you do that, then you are making decisions and changing the environment and the circumstances before the enemy is truly coming to grips with what's happening. A good example is, let's say you're moving along a trail to an objective, and you're trying to decide what's on the objective. Well, your enemy already knows you're coming, and they've set up an ambush for you. As you move on, by the time they take you under fire, you're trying to observe what's happening, make sense of it, and decide what to do. They've already decided what's happening. They've seen you coming, they've already oriented what's happening, they've decided, and they're taking action. And they're able to, that's how an ambush works. They're hitting you, and this imposes shock before you because you're still they're making their decisions faster than you are. Another good example in law enforcement is you'll see, a police officer will walk up on a car, and you'll see videos about this. A lot of times the person in there, if he wants to hurt the police officer, he's already decided what's happening. There's a video that's always been kind of important to me where this Vietnam War veteran engages a sheriff's deputy. And in this video, watch it, that the person, as a deputy walks up, the Vietnam War veteran sees it, he pulls out a rifle, and he starts shooting him. The sheriff deputy gets killed, but he's still trying to make sense of what's happening. And that's a good example. Someone has already decided to take action, and he's making almost laser-like decision-making while someone else is trying to orient, decide, and act. John Boyd is always saying the key to winning is to be able to observe, make sense of it, decide, and act faster than the enemy. That's what the OODA loop is always about. All right, so the point of it is, let me see this eraser, is how do you do this? So there's three key ways in order to really run maneuver warfare and to make decisions faster than your opponent. So the first filter, when you decide what we're going to do, the first filter you have to run your operation through is this thing called commander's intent. Why commander's intent is important is because it already understands that the environment changes. What we typically do in the Army is that we make a plan, and then we think that plan is just where we fight the plan throughout the duration of it. And I'm sure you've seen it where you've made a plan, and like an NTC or something, did the plan you make remain intact throughout the entire operation?
It never survives first contact.
But we know that, but how come we still keep on assuming it does? So commander's intent, it already understands that circumstances will change. But what it says is that the commander has the proper context. If you understand the context 2 levels up and you see the entirety of the circumstances, sure, you understand what needs to happen, then the soldier at the point of action can take the appropriate action because they're the closest to the circumstances. A wrestling analogy. So, for example, let's say you and I are wrestling, and I'm on the mat. Now, who's the best person to decide what wrestling move I should use on you? Me or my coach that's standing over there? Why?
Because you're in it.
I'm in it. I'm closest to the action, right? Sure. Imagine if you had your left foot and I'm like, okay, I'm going to shoot a Russian single here. And I looked at it and says, sir, hey, coach, I see his left leg here. Can I shoot a Russian single on his left leg? Yep. Well, what's happened then?
You just gave the initiative, and I'm probably going to
The
make a move on
circumstances
you.
have by the time I did that and came back, the circumstances have changed, correct? And so the whole thing happens with war, that the circumstances will change. But the wrestler on the mat might not have the entire understanding of the coach. So therefore, if you know what your commander's intending to do, then you are empowered to take action as the circumstances change. One of my favorite examples of this is from our own regiment during the Battle of Hastings Ridge in 1943 during the bigger campaign of New Georgia. During this campaign, the 161st Infantry Regiment was attacking from east to west, and there were these big high mountain ridge lines running north and south, and the Japanese were dug along each of the top of the ridge lines in these machine gun bunkers that were, mutually supporting. There was one particular Hastings Ridge where the Japanese were dug in, and for 5 days, the 161st Infantry Regiment attacked over and over again. They would do, preparatory bombardment and shell, and then attack, and then the Japanese were too dug in and would beat them back. They would try again, this time with flamethrowers. They would try even more people. For 5 days, they tried over and over and over again, and was never able to successfully defeat the Japanese on top of Hastings Ridge. On the 5th day, the regiment just sent out a small reconnaissance patrol to see if they could locate where these machine gun bunkers were. As they moved up, it was led by Lieutenant Tibniak, a Staff Sergeant Norton, and PFC Cushman, and 7 others. And remember, they're on a reconnaissance patrol. What are they supposed to do? Just report. As they crept up to one of the machine gun bunkers, they noticed the Japanese in the bunker was asleep. Now, to be true to their mission, they could have just reported it. But instead, they operated on what's the intent? The intent was to seize Hastings Ridge. So without having direction, they leapt into action. And they moved forward and started throwing grenades into the machine gun bunkers of the sleeping Japanese. And they started working in teamwork, and they'd actually pitch each other grenades as they went around. And in 6 minutes, that small reconnaissance patrol of those 3 individuals destroyed every single machine gun bunker on top of Hastings Ridge. In 6 minutes, Lieutenant Tibniak, Staff Sergeant Norton, PFC Cushman did what the entire 161st Infantry Regiment could not do in 5 days. That's commander's intent. And that's in our history, but that is the first filter to understand how to wage maneuver warfare. They knew what needed to be done, what higher headquarters was trying to do. Without direction, they made it happen. So that's the first filter. Now that you have commander's intent, the next thing you need to understand is the main effort. So this is something that's been lost over the years. As in the global war on terrorism, we went into decisive operations, this is sustaining operations, shaping operations. We kind of lost what the idea of the main effort. Main effort comes from a German word called Schwerpunkt, and it doesn't really translate well. It means aim point. So the whole idea in fighting outnumbered and win means that you will always be outnumbered, but if you will have an aim point, if you'll aim at the weak point and put everything you can at that weak point, you can have overwhelming firepower numbers at the weak point. That's what jiu-jitsu is all about, right? You'll be wrestling somebody and you put all of your might against an elbow, right, or against, a chokehold or something like that. You might not be stronger than the person, but my entire body or force can be stronger than your elbow, can be stronger than your neck or something. It's just getting you that way. It's gaining local superiority. It's having a main effort. And once you designate a main effort, everybody else supports it. So the way I think about it is a football example. So when you watch football, notice the ball is snapped. Think of the guy with the ball is the main effort. So he's got the ball. He's going to be running. What is everybody else doing? They're blocking for that person with the football. Now, upon getting tackled, I pitch the ball to you. Now I pitch the main effort. Everybody realizes, oh, now they're the main effort, and everybody else blocks for him. That is the whole idea of main and supporting efforts. And so if everybody does that, you create an operation that has harmony. Another way to think about it is like a song. So in a song, you really only have one melody. Everyone's playing one melody, and everyone else is doing harmony or providing a rhythm, and it makes a music. If everyone's doing their own thing, well, then it's just noise. Sure. But with main effort, you're determining what is the most important thing. And that's hard, because when you determine a main effort, what are you saying? Something else isn't. And we've become accustomed not to prioritizing, because you'll say, hey, the most important thing is your main effort is here. Now, where do you aim your main effort? Well, that provides your third filter, surfaces and gaps. So surfaces and gaps work like this. I'm a football guy, so he's a football example. So here I'll drop a quick football. Here's your center always, right? Here's your quarterback. Here's your tailback. Here's your wide receiver. So you think of these linemen, those are surfaces. Those are hard places. They're strengths. When you think of linemen, they're big, strong people. So here's your defense. So in a typical offense, quarterback goes back with the ball. Where's the weak point? Where would you win? And if in the offense, where are we trying to get to?
Get to the quarterback.
We're right to the quarterback. Unfortunately, what we typically do in the Army is we just go right for the enemy in front of us. So, there's the enemy, we go right for him. That would be hitting a surface. So when you think about a blitz, it's interesting, it's called blitzkrieg. Blitzing means you go through the gap. You go where there isn't somebody to get to the critical vulnerability, the quarterback. So surfaces and gaps is this idea that the surface is the hard place and we're trying to go through the gap. If you go through the gap, you get to the enemy's critical vulnerability. And this is how it all works. So you have commander's intent, who gives the overall intent of the operation. This is what we intend to do, acknowledging that circumstances will change and the person closest to the point of action is the one who should make the decision, given they have the proper context.
Sure.
Then you determine a main effort. Who is going to be the one? The linebacker, who we're going to send. Everybody's going to support this linebacker getting through the gap. So this guy's going to come up and try to hit this surface. Yes, but not the goal to try to push this lineman out of the way and tie him up to open this gap. Everybody's going to be supporting this linebacker, who then shoots the gap and gets to the enemy's critical vulnerability, sacks the quarterback, becomes a hero, and we're all happy.
Sure.
So when you design an operation, the three filters, remember, commander's intent. Remember, designate a main effort, and everybody supports it. And then you aim your main effort to go through the gap to get to the decisive point, or enemy critical vulnerability. So that is the three filters. Anything you want to add?
Sir, with the football analogy, I listen to a lot of sports podcasts. One of my favorite coaches is, he's retired now, Bruce Arians. He coached the Bucks, right, when Tom Brady was a coach there. And one of the things he always says, and I'm sure you can think of examples when your team was playing defense against an offense that had to go do a really long pass, right? What did they do? They played it safe, played it deep, cover four, something like that. They did not blitz. Bruce Arians, his thing is like, I'm always going to dial up a blitz. And that's looking at the football analogy, that is his commander's intent, get to the quarterback. Even, it's 4th and 20, I will always dial up a blitz. I'm never going to play it safe. And with that team, with the Bucks, that was one of the big things about him. He had a great defensive coach as well, and Tom Brady, the greatest of all time on the offense. But he would always do that. And when they played the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, they knocked him off. And how did they do that? It was not the offense, it was the defense. Because Bruce Arians, I don't know if he even knows anything about this, but that's exactly what he was doing with his defense, and they won the Super Bowl.
That's a great example.
Sure.
And what I want to take away from this, when we think of maneuver warfare, a big piece I want you to take away has three big components to it, three filters. You're designing, hey, I'm going to design this operation. Our mission is to go from here and destroy the enemy on objective Longstreet. As you're designing it, first think, okay, what is the commander intending to do? How can I operate with the commander's intent? How can I give commander's intent to liberate the individual energies of my formation to achieve victory? That's what you want, people to be able to take action, take initiative within the constraints of the context. Once you do that, then you find the main effort. Pick a main effort. You are going to be the one to destroy the enemy on objective Longstreet. Everyone else is supporting that effort. This is how you're going to support it. This is how you're going to support it. And what if the circumstances change? You pitch the ball. You make someone else the main effort, and everyone else supports it. And then lastly, surfaces and gaps. Find the gap. Go through the surface. This is usually done by a reconnaissance pool, which we can talk more about later. Okay, with that, thanks for joining us. Fight outnumbered and win.